Being in second place might be good enough for some folks, but everyone wants to be in first place. Now, LG has always been the underdog, coming in second after what Samsung has done. Now, they don't want to be the runner-up anymore, so they're doing something dramatically different with its latest flagship smartphone. Hey guys, John V from PhoneArena here. You're watching our video preview of the LG G5. This phone definitely opens up a brand new chapter for LG just because they finally introduced a metal design. So some of the signature stuff from before are present here, like the power button in the back of the phone. You have an IR blaster, so it doubles as a universal remote. And you also have a micro SD card slot, so you have expandable storage. But some of the other stuff have changed. For example, the volume controls are now on the side as opposed to the back. Now with the introduction of the new metal design, it does feel a lot sturdier and you get that sense of premium. And they also brought on a fingerprint sensor, which was first introduced with the V10, but now is finally in with the G series. Not only does it look good and feel good, but the G5 also introduces this new concept of a modular design. It's something we haven't seen before, and it brings expanded functionality with all these various accessories or LG friends that are coming out for the phone. Now, when you remove the bottom piece, it's attached to the battery, and the battery is kind of tough to remove and feels like we're going to snap it off. But you could swap it out for other stuff like the Cam Plus, which is basically a camera grip attachment. Now, in theory, it seems cool, but it makes us wonder how practical are they going to be. LG also adopts the dual camera setup we saw in the front-facing camera of the V10, but now it's been placed on the back. So basically, it's a 16 megapixel camera used by the G4, same exact specifications, but it's accompanied with an 8 megapixel secondary camera that covers 135 degrees, and that's basically its purpose, to capture more of the scene for you. Now, when you use this, we notice that there's just a little bit of that fisheye distortion, but it calls for some practical situations just because with the wide angle capture, you could get more people included in the shot, and especially works for this panoramic. So instead of using a panoramic, this will suffice. The interface is the same as the G4 we've seen previously. There's some new additions, but overall it's unchanged. They still don't have manual video controls for this though. The story with its screen is an interesting one because this is the first time we're seeing LG going with a smaller size screen. So instead of 5.5 incher from last year, you're going to find a 5.3 inch Quad HD IPS LCD display with the G5. We're not going to go into all of the details about it, but we do notice that it's a little bit on the colder side. They do introduce this new thing called the always on display, which is pretty useful because it displays stuff like the time, date, and also some of the notifications without having to turn on the display itself. So it's always there at your leisure. So in that regard, it's pretty useful. On top of that too, the LG G5 gets a top shelf processor, whereas with last year's unit, the G4, it had a second-rate one with the Snapdragon 808. So this time it's powered with the Snapdragon 820, and it gives some fantastic performances so far from what we're seeing on its pre-production unit. It has fluid speeds everywhere, and it's pretty formidable with its graphics processing as well. For the interface, LG approaches it with a minimalist attitude, so no longer are you going to find those colorful rainbow UI theme that we've been seeing in the last few iterations of this interface. It's now far more simplified, and they remove things like the multitasking capabilities of the handset. You still have the recent apps menu, but you're not going to find those Q-Slide apps or the side-by-side true multitasking that we saw previously. Now, it's hard to say if we're going to see them with the final build software, but with this pre-production unit, they're not there. We got to remember that companies always want to stand out, and with LG, they're doing that here with the G5, especially with that new modular design and the dual camera setup in the back of the phone. But as we look at the phone and think about what it's capable of doing, it also begs the question whether or not these changes are going to be regarded as novel or not. Sure, it definitely makes the phone a lot more playful than some others out there, but the more pressing matter is whether or not it'll strike a chord with consumers.